Hi there and welcome to Global Goals. In this video we'll be previewing Group E of this year's World Cup, a group that sees two of football's powerhouses, Germany and Spain, lock horns. It's fair to say that neither Japan nor Costa Rica boast the prestige that the two European nations do, but they'll nonetheless be looking to write narratives of their own. So who better to dissect this box office group with me today than our very own box office experts, Alfie and Josh. Firstly, I'll take you to Josh, who will give you the lowdown on each team one by one. And the first team we've got up today is Spain. So over to you, Josh.
Thanks, Ois. The Spanish national football team is perhaps one of the most widely anticipated squads in the lineup as we approach the upcoming World Cup in Qatar. Under the new management of Luis Enrique, the team's performance on the field has taken a swift upturn following a difficult period between 2014 and 2018. A top 4 Euro 2020 finish followed by a second place in the Nations League has renewed confidence. At one point in time, their reputation on the global stage could only be described as unparalleled. 5 years of domination between 2008 and 2013 saw the squad claim 2 European titles before clenching the World Cup in 2010. Along the way, mounting a remarkable streak of 35 wins, which to this day remains unbeaten. The future of Spain's international success is in the hands of a new generation. 22-year-old Ferran Torres and 19-year-old Ansu Fati are just two of many young prospects looking to make some waves in the upcoming tournament. The talent of these young stars, combined with the knowledge and experience of some of the nation's finest in Sergio Busquets and Thiago, bode well for what is to come. Back to you, Ois.
Cheers, Josh. Yeah, you spoke a lot about the youthfulness that we're going to see from Spain, and obviously we've had the kind of the old guard who've dominated for many years. But Alfie, how crucial could this kind of transition period be for them in terms of the likes of Torres and Pedri among others putting their marker down?
Yeah, it's massive. I mean, when you've got these new young players in, it's really down to them to really make a name for themselves. And in the previous tournaments, like we've seen with Pedri and Ferran, like in the Euros that just went, they've really performed well. But then again, I think the experience that's embedded already within the squad, I think will carry them through. Players like Thiago, Marcus Llorente as well, I'm a big fan of, a versatile centre mid who plays right back for his national team. But to me, that just seems like it's a player who is willing to do anything for his badge.
Yeah, no, without a doubt. And how far do you actually see the Spaniards getting this time around? Could they go one better than they did in the Euro semis?
I definitely think there's a potential of the final for these. I mean, the squad unity is there, the talent's there. It's just about reciprocating that on the pitch.
And just quickly as well, one player was going to stand out, one young player.
Torres.
Cheers. Now on next to another nation who will be back in the test to make it far in this year's tournament. Josh, what can you tell us about Germany?
Germany headed to their first major tournament without the leadership of Joachim Löw. For the first time in almost 2 decades as Hansi Flick takes charge of the national side. Flick looks to carry the momentum of his first 15 games since being appointed in August 2021 and aim to make amends for Germany's poor effort to defend their World Cup title in 2018. New additions such as Karim Adeyemi, Florian Wirtz and Jamal Musiala have added new life to Germany's squad, and with the support from international veterans such as Thomas Müller, there's still a huge presence in the squad. Flick has settled on a 4-3-2-1 formation for all but one of his games so far and looks to continue this after his run of 9 wins, 5 draws and 1 loss since taking charge. Manuel Neuer will be captaining his side in what will be his 4th World Cup, while Bayern star Joshua Kimmich looks to continue his impressive form into the World Cup. Back to you, Ois.
Yeah, Josh, you mentioned there, there's so many players similar with the Spanish. There's actually an area of similarity between the pair where there's that old guard who've done so well over the years, but now there's a group of young players coming through. Alfie, do you think the Germans have what it takes, especially with the crop of players they've got now, to win this tournament again?
Yeah, again, like you mentioned, very similar to Spain, we're going through a bit of a transition period. I think the 2 main young lads that you need to keep an eye on, Jamal Musiala and Nico Schlotterbeck. Musiala is expected to play in behind the striker through the 10. So, I mean, playing that high up, he's going to be having to feed the balls into Kai Havertz, who I'm expecting to start as well up in striker. And as well with Nico Schlotterbeck as well, recently making the move from Gladbach to Dortmund, going to be paired with Antonio Rudiger up on the screen there at centre-half, so it's going to be down to him as well to keep the goals out.
And look, Spain and Germany are both looking really strong. Which one do you see top in this group, and why do you think that? I
think I just have to edge Spain. I just think I rate their younger talent a bit higher, and I think that's going to be the difference.
Yeah, no, it's a fair assessment, definitely. Now look, we're kind of assuming that these 2 nations are going to qualify, but it's not always the case. You saw Germany last time go out really early, and if there is anyone to upset them, it could be Costa Rica. We saw what they did in the so-called group of death when they played in 2014. But Josh, what have you got to say for Costa Rican fans out there?
Well, as you say, Oasis, 8 years ago, Costa Rica stunned everyone at the 2014 World Cup in Brazil, smoking the so-called group of death of England, Italy and Uruguay, before dropping out Greece on penalties and only just losing out to the Netherlands as well on spot kicks. Having missed the 2018 edition, the Central Americans are back and ready to make their mark. When it comes to the squad, former Real Madrid and current PSG keeper Keylor Navas is obviously the main man. A player with countless Champions League appearances, and you can imagine Costa Rica may rely on his talent and experience to keep them in games. One player to keep an eye on is Sunderland's Hindson Bennett. The 18-year-old only made his professional senior debut last year, but has already scored a brace against South Korea in September. Manager Luis Fernando Suarez is no stranger to an international tournament, previously managing Ecuador and Honduras at World Cups. Whilst he took Ecuador to the round of 16 in 2006, he struggled with Honduras at the 2014 World Cup, losing all 3 of those games. He's a man who not only has a point to prove to his country, but to himself also. And that's back to you guys.
Cheers, Josh. Yeah, I think Costa Rica captured the hearts of many in 2014 when they shocked everyone. But Alfie, could you see them doing something similar, or I guess with the talent that Germany and Spain have got? It's a pretty big ask, isn't it?
Yeah, there's going to be a big ask, but again, you can never say die in these tournaments. I mean, like in 2014, we didn't know much about this Costa Rica team, and very similar. And now we don't know much. So I mean, it's the element of surprise that really comes with it. But as Josh mentioned, Hindson Bennett, lad I'm a big fan of, despite being a fan of the opposing side, Newcastle. But this is really a chance for him to make his mark if he wants to really make a name for himself. If he gets a goal, honestly, the eyes are really going to be on him.
Yeah, take it from me, viewers. If you've got a hardcore Newcastle fan here, bigging up a Sunderland player, he's got to be good. So it'll be really interesting to see how it gets on. Could you see him grabbing a goal or two, Alfie?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, against a team like Japan, or maybe just sneaking one against one of the big dogs, really would be a nice thing to see. Yeah,
he could certainly burst on the scene and maybe even get a big move after that to a bigger club, Alfie, right?
You said it.
But that's all we've got time for Costa Rica. But on next to a nation who, I reckon they've been pretty hard done by getting drawn in a group like this after what they did last time round. But Josh, what can you tell us about Japan's prospects?
Yeah, so the Japanese national team are a side with plenty to prove in Qatar, having reached the round of 16 in 2018 and the final of the 2019 Asian Cup. Hopes high around the nation for this tournament. In the 2-part Asian qualifying system, Japan stormed through their opening group with 8 wins from 8 against the likes of Tajikistan and Mongolia, registering a final difference of plus 44. Whilst the second part saw them finish second behind a very strong Saudi Arabia side. Off the back of qualification, 2 decent results against both USA and Ecuador have set Japan up nicely and allowed the managers to discover new players for the squad. Junya Ito of Reims has been impressive, racking up 6 goals ahead of the tournament, but with a whole host of attacking talent, there's likely to be plenty of rotation in the front line. Defensively, captain Mayo Yoshida is heading to his 3rd World Cup with the Samurai Blue, and with 2 successful tournaments already under his belt, his experience will be invaluable for the younger members of the squad. That's all from me. Back to you guys.
Cheers, Josh. Yeah, that experience for them is going to be valuable. Obviously, we've seen what they did in 2018, where they came so close to beating Belgium, and all those players Josh mentioned there, Alfie. I know there's one particular youngster at Brighton who really caught your eye. So I'm going to give the floor to you. Take us through Mitoma and why you're so keen on him.
Yeah, Kaoru Mitoma, I mean, he's came in relatively unknown into this Brighton team, and whilst he hasn't had too many minutes, the cameos he's made has been really, really impressive. So, he can play it both defensively at the left wing back and a bit higher at left wing. So, I'm excited to see what he can do. I'm also a big fan of Daichi Kamada as well. He's been a constant now for years in a very, very impressive Frankfurt side. Plenty of goals and assists in him, so it'll definitely be down to him to maybe provide and also create the goals.
Yeah, cheers, Alfie. Look, it probably is a group of death, this one. Both Costa Rica and Japan in either group might back themselves to qualify, but that's sometimes how the draw works. That's it from us now, but stay tuned for the next one, for the next preview video, excuse me. But from us, it's thank you and goodbye.